Now that we've had a full 4 days on the Modern Warfare beta, I think that what we really need to be doing is talking about the problems and the things that need to be addressed by the developers. So in this list, I've got just 5 things that I really wanted to talk about here. There are probably way more than just 5, but right now I'm going to start with the big 5 for me. So without further ado, the first one, aim down sight and sprint out times. So whether the game developers have chosen to slow down aim down sight and sprint out times to make the game feel more realistic or to better balance the game against the run and gun play styles, it seems like it is doing more harm than good from a player's perspective. While having a slower ADS may be a good choice for balancing, it seems like what it is actually doing is just punishing players for being active and offensive and therefore discouraging some players from moving at all. So this is what's really promoting that camping, pre-aiming style of gameplay that we've really been seeing a lot of in this beta so far. An easy solution to this is to slightly improve the time it takes to aim down the sights from a sprint, as well as lessen the impact that attachments have on ADS times. I mean, seriously, it seems like every single attachment comes at the cost of a weapon's ADS time. Sometimes this makes sense from a realistic point of view, but I think it stands to harm gameplay more than it stands to improve it. The next big one, number 2, is spawns and spawn trapping. Everyone who has played the beta for a bit has already experienced a spawn trap. It's usually a little while after a game's full release that players figure out how to prevent an enemy team from escaping a certain spawn, but we're only in the first weekend of beta play, and we're already experiencing some pretty nasty spawn trapping. Hackney Yard is a prime example. Not only is one side of the map practically built to easily spawn trap with these 2 elevated windows to provide fire from, but the spawns in general need to be revisited. You'll see here in this clip that I literally got attacked by an enemy player the second I spawned in. Now, imperfect spawns are somewhat to be expected from a beta, so I'm sure that we'll see some improvement from the developers on this one. Number 3, this is a huge one for me. People not playing the objective. In this game of domination you're seeing now, I was really the only person trying to capture B and advance the score of my team. It wasn't long before we were being dominated because my team simply wasn't trying to play the game mode as it was intended. Now, this is not something that's limited to just a beta, and this is not something that's going to go away. But I do think that there is a way to improve this. Now, some people may say, hey Spruce, there are players that are not going for objectives because it's a beta. It's a new game with new game mechanics and players are simply getting used to how it plays. Some might theorize that some people aren't playing the objective due to the fact that we have one single playlist that includes Team Deathmatch, Domination, and Headquarters. Maybe some of these people only want to be playing TDM in the beta to get used to the weapons, to get used to the game mechanics. And now that's a fair point, and there's more validity to this argument than the previous one. But I don't think that's 100% correct. I think that the reason we are seeing so little objective gameplay this early on is mostly because there's no reward for objective playstyle. I absolutely believe that capturing a flag or remaining on the headquarters for a certain amount of time should equate to the same number of points as a kill, simply because this is an extremely easy way to help push players to go for the objective and play the game mode as it was intended. There is nothing more frustrating than playing an objective game mode with more than 1 or 2 teammates who aren't going for the objective. I think this really needs to be addressed, and I'm really hoping that some other people in the community with a wider audience and a little bit more pull address this, because I really want to see this fixed by the developers. Number 4 is a little bit simpler than the last problem and may very well be addressed by the time the full version is released. And that is the issue that in Team Deathmatch, where the only way to measure your success is your kill-death ratio, there is no death count on the scoreboard, only kills and assists. And for Domination, we have kill and death count, but no capture count. This seems completely backwards for me. TDM should have kills and deaths reflected on the scoreboard, and Dom should have, at minimum, kills and captures, and ideally deaths as well. Now, I'm not sure if I missed a memo or something, but I really hope this is changed as well for the full version, because sometimes seeing your deaths surpassing your number of kills is enough motivation for you to turn up the gas and perform better. So this is definitely a small thing, but it's so simple that I have to believe that the developers will make this change for the full version. And number 5 is a controversial one. Skill-based matchmaking. Now, this may not seem like a big issue to some, but let me tell you why it is. Some people may not like my opinion on this, but I think skill-based matchmaking is stupid. It goes against the rule of competition. Does it promote more intense gameplay? Yes, sometimes. Is it accurate? Not always. Does it make gameplay more fun? No, not necessarily. See, you could have an uncharacteristically great game, and all of a sudden, you're going to be matched with players who typically play as you just have. And I know some players are going to flame those that are speaking out against the skill-based matchmaking. Some are all for it. They'll say, hey, skill-based matchmaking helps you improve as a player. It makes things more fair and prevents blowout games. But guess what? Blowout games are a part of competition. Name one sport where the event is called off because one of the teams is likely to crush the other. You just don't see it. Coming up against players that are far stronger and far weaker than you competitively is part of the nature of competition. And I think that skill-based matchmaking is simply developers trying to babysit matches to make sure everybody is playing fair and nobody's getting their feelings hurt. And I don't agree with that philosophy. Of all things on this list, this is probably the one that's least likely to be addressed or changed, but it's probably the thing I feel most strongly about. And a quick bonus problem that I'm just gonna toss in here, the reveal of loot boxes and supply drops and the future game files. No! While this is guaranteed to be a part of COD gaming moving forward, it's still a huge letdown, and it's still something that we as a community have to continue voicing our opinions on. If it's going to be present, it needs to be visual only. I mean, come on, just make some super badass characters and weapon variants that can only be unlocked via supply drops. But for the love of God, keep new weapons, perks, or anything that could be competitively advantageous out. So that's my list, guys. If you agree or disagree with one of the things I mentioned, or you have some problems you want addressed that I didn't mention, please sound off in the comments. This is a channel I just started recently, so I'd really appreciate any feedback, likes, or subscribes. So I'll see you in the next beta weekend.